everyone. Once again, I'm Hilary Kennedy, the Program Director for Medicaid Leadership here at NAMD, happily joined by my colleague, Ed O'Neill. We're here to talk about ways to lead in a time of COVID and a pandemic when everybody is working from home or remotely or just handling different levels of stress. This is part of our broader Medicaid Leadership Exchange podcast series, which we do in collaboration with the Center for Healthcare Strategies and funding from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Today's conversation from Ed will focus on emotional intelligence and how important that is to be an effective leader. So Ed, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Hilary. It's great to be back with everybody talking about ways to adjust some of our leadership skills in these challenging COVID times. Influencing without authority is one of the most important leadership skills, attributes, qualities that there is. In fact, it may define leadership because while we sometimes conventionally think of leadership as things that you do down in the organization, this really invites you to think about leadership in the context of leading down, leading out, and leading up. And you do that with, I think you do that effectively in part with emotional intelligence. That great concept that Dan Goleman first introduced us to now over 20 years ago, that there's another side to our way of being in the world, that this kind of rational, visionary or task-oriented self is how we've thought about our actions as leaders. There's another side of that, which is more on the relationship. Last time we talked about building relationships. This is really the transition to how do you take those relationship qualities and use them in an emotionally intelligent way to move the organization. It's really challenging now because a lot of this is deeply embedded into our biology, into our limbic system. So you may be very attuned at picking up on body language or even use of language in a setting that's in an office or in a small meeting room, but over Zoom, it loses some of that familiarity, and you may not be able to pick up. One of the things that I've been struck by in all this is I find it very distracting to see this horrible looking character, which happens to be me, up on the screen. I don't have to deal with that in usual assessments of what is going on with the other. So the first thing that you want to think about is how to be empathetic in this new environment. What are the things to do? What are the new routines, the new ways of connecting? What are the cues that you look for? We discussed some of those things in the quick tips. You also want to be attuned, and which means the focus that you bring to the encounter and the interactions. And that's just going to be different. It's going to have to do with where your eyes are in the Zoom conference. It's going to be how thoughtful you are at connecting and remembering what was said before. There's a thing called Zoom drift where you can put your stock photo up and go off and do your email with impunity, and that's not going to keep you fully engaged. But even if you are up on screen and live, it's hard to listen because we're not used to listening. We're not used to processing what other people say in the same kind of way. Many of you are probably experiencing this right now as I talk, not really knowing what I'm saying, but you have to be able to catch yourself and refocus and stay attuned. Situational awareness is really empathy for the organizational context. Are you savvy politically? And now the politics have all changed. There's no water cooler. There are no all hands meetings, or they're mediated in a different way. And so you need to develop different ways of securing information about what's going on. I know NAMD and CHCS have recently offered a quick survey of temperature of leaders within Medicaid organizations. Just one of many different ways for you to download that organizational awareness or situational awareness. Alignment is the payoff for being emotionally intelligent in an influencing manner. If you're emotionally intelligent, but it doesn't align the work of the people around you, then it has gone for nothing in terms of improving the performance of the organization. So you want people to feel good, you want people to be engaged, but you also want it to work purposefully towards the goal of the short-term and even long-term goals of the organization. And then finally, you really are responsible in terms of the leadership role. And again, it doesn't matter if you're leading up or out, but certainly down. You're responsible for providing that inspiration. And I'll just remind you quickly that inspiration is it responds to people's need for coherence. There is no time in your professional life that people have needed that coherence more than right now. So that's a part of your job. You also need to remind them of the value of the work. Now, that's a great opportunity for folks in Medicaid, because the work's particularly valuable. Always has been important and valuable, but particularly valuable now. You need to remind every individual that you're trying to influence of their unique role. And sometimes that's going to be the challenging task of reminding up in the organization what is needed from leaders above you right at this moment. But that's still part of your job of influencing to drive alignment and to be successful. And then finally, you just want to be positive, not myopic. You want to say the truth, but you want to keep it in a positive way, because there's enough negative vibe going around for everyone to be disaffected by this, and your job is to keep them engaged. So that's it. I hope you have a chance to take a look at the quick tips, and I'll turn it back to Hilary.
Thanks, Ed. That point on coherence and how important it is right now in particular resonated with me. So I hope that it all resonates with everybody who's watching and listening as well. Again, for more details into those strategies that Ed mentioned, we encourage you to look at the accompanying tip sheet and quick take, which he has pulled together. So that concludes today's conversation, and we will be back with more. And we hope that you're all doing well as you handle this pandemic and its impact on your work and personal lives. So bye, everyone.